Hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome to the Oracle of the Light channel. My name is SP Psychic Medium. Nice to see you all today. Hope you're all keeping well. So we're going to go straight on to the program. Before we do though, I have to say that all readings are for entertainment purposes only, as you are all aware, and all readings stand for currently right now at this moment. So let's go straight on to this program. It's a very interesting program. Budapest Pride. So no doubt you've seen the pictures in the paper. It's incredible. The bridge full of just packed with people. It's truly amazing. In fact, actually, articles about the event have said there's between 100,000 to 200,000 people there. So we're talking an incredible turnout. Previously, apparently, there was 35,000 that turned out for the event. So why did so many people turn out for the event? Well, the reason why so many people turn out for the event is Viktor Orban decided that he wanted to ban Pride. Now, the article I've taken my information from, by the way, is a BBC article, and it says this article, thousands party at Budapest Pride in a clear message to Orban, of course, who is at the forefront of a fascist regime, who, believe it or not, is currently brought about some new legislation trying to connect Pride to and homophobia to paedophilia and stuff. It's ridiculous. This article says it's homosexuality and paedophilia. Apparently, this new child protection law that Orban has tried to put through, in the theory that children will see the pride and therefore they need to be protected. It's absolutely ridiculous. Because it's actually prides that protect young people, because it makes it okay to be who you are, rather than criminalizing it. It's completely upside down and messed up, if you ask me. Pedophiles are one thing and are nothing to do with homosexuality. The two are not connected. And anyone, of course, who sees what these people are will know that. People just like to try to connect these things to sort of taint them with a brush, but it's really not true. It's just ridiculous, basically, and it's actually a huge insult to, and it's just ridiculous. So let's go over this article a little bit. Okay, to begin with. So first of all, he started off with bringing this new legislation through, and therefore bringing a ban on the Pride March, particularly. And also, of course, what did people do in response to that? Well, the people spoke, is what happened. And the people said, you're not going to ban it. And there was a brilliant quote from someone that said, you can't ban freedom. And I think that's really, really true. These people trying to put through this homophobic legislation and this legislation against even immigrants and things like this, it's just, you can't ban freedom. You can't just make a law against it and that's it. And the very nature of prides are marching against that, actually. You have the Stonewall and all that, when it goes right back to people's freedoms is what it's about. That's what prides are. People go, oh, well, why isn't there a straight pride? There's not a straight pride because you haven't had to fight for your freedoms if you're straight. If you're gay and if you're transgender, you had to fight for your freedoms. Even we've seen in the UK, bills have been passed that are preferential to not trans people, to male and female, and there's so many other genders in this country, and so Pride marches are about people's freedoms. They're not about wiping out people's freedoms. That's what I have to remember. I support straight people's rights as much as I support gay people's rights. I support black people's rights just as much as I support foreign people's rights and all that. That's what we must understand here. It's not a case of either or. I support feminists and I support trans people. Okay, it's not a case of either or. It's working together as a whole, and as a community, which is why the pride flag has a rainbow on it, because that represents all the colours of the community that is one. And I also find it absolutely hilarious that they're banning this isn't necessarily Hungary and everything, but I know that America are getting rid of diversity. It's like, well, you can't. You might on paper have got rid of diversity legislation, but do you not see that the very nature of a community is a diverse thing? It just is. It isn't something you bring into law, like all of a sudden you have diversity law. Like it doesn't exist anymore. Diversity is there whether you want to see it or not. And that's the interesting thing, whether you want to see it or not. I know lots of the MAGA people are choosing kind of not to see it, but it's there. But I always ask, what are you afraid of? You know, what is it you're afraid of? What is it that makes you want to trample someone down, like the people in Orban's party? What is it in you that you want to take away people's rights? You know, and basically you won't do that. You know, because we must also remember that unfortunately we've been in this position before, but we've been through it and seen the other side of it. So just like we've been through it and seen the other side, we can also go through the other side of this. So getting back to the story a little bit, I veered off there. But so normally the distance of this Pride March in the Budapest Pride, it involved going over that wonderful bridge. It takes about 20 minutes, but it actually took 3 hours for the crowd to actually go through it. Isn't that incredible? And as I say, between 100 and 200,000 young people danced and sang their way on the march. Many banners on that march also mocked the Hungarian Prime Minister in a peaceful revenge, you know. He has literally been declaring war on them for the past 15 years. And there's quotes from people saying, I'm bored of fascism. In my history class, I learned enough to recognize a dictatorship. There's lots of interesting quotes in this article, the BBC article, you know. So lots of people were wearing their pride outfits, as you should do. And if you are going on a pride march, I would recommend, and please have the courage to wear the rainbows and go bright. Me and my husband Francesco, we've been fortunate to go on marches in Pride in Hull, and we also did Pride in London as well. That was incredible as well. And we stepped into our power and stepped into our light, and really enjoyed those. So, and I particularly recommend you to go on a Pride march if you are feeling a bit lonely, you don't have a community to talk to. Just go on a Pride march, and by the time you end that Pride march, you will have some friends in the community that you can stay in touch with, and you know, and incredible memories. You know, it's a Pride march is actually this very thing that Viktor Orban was trying to ban, was one of the things that actually lit the fire in my belly to shine my light out and be who I am. You know, and so who is it anyone's right to ban that opportunity to people that are already a minority group and already find it difficult in society, you know? So who is it his thing to say that, you know? So there's a great now Karakoznoy, which is I believe he might be a let's have a look a minute. Karakoznoy also, which he may be a mayor, I think. So he said, yeah, the mayor, Geragay Karasnogoy, I think you call his name. He says, we don't exactly look as though we were banned, he said, beaming to the crowd. In fact, he said, in fact, we look like we're peacefully and freely performing a big, fat show to a puffed up and hateful power. The message is clear. They have no power over us. And this is it's really important people to do this at the moment, you know, because obviously this new legislation is absolutely ridiculous. A child protection law that equated homosexuality with paedophilia and therefore banned the portrayal or promotion of homosexuality in places where children might see it. I mean, honestly, really? It's like, you know, just backwards, if you ask me. So apparently the police presence was restrained as well. but temporary cameras were installed ahead of the march to record the whole event. And yeah, they do think that fines are going to possibly be imposed on the participants, but it'd be interesting to see where that goes next in terms of these possible fines, because they've been using, apparently they've been using some face recognition technology, apparently. But this is where one of the questions I'm going to ask during this reading is whether there's going to be anything else in the future about this, you know. So the questions I'm going to be asking during this reading are, how has Orban taken this rebellion against him and his government? That's the first question. And then the second question, will there be more rallies against his government in the future? So I think there may well be. If they try to impose these fines, I think you might well see some things in the future. But let's see what the cards say. Of course, as we know, all readings are for entertainment purposes only. So I'm going to use the Cosmic Tower cards to begin with. I think I'll get 5 cards, I think. So I'm using a Cosmic Tower, and then I'll also use the Oracle of Light cards to get a bit more clarity. So let's see what the cards say. I'm just giving them a shuffle. All right then. Okay, so let's put the first question up. Don't forget, if you do enjoy it, everyone, do subscribe and follow. I do appreciate that. Do give it a thumb up and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers, so I do appreciate it. And do comment as well. Comment below. Let me see what you make of this reading as well. Okay, so how has Orban take this rebellion against him? So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll draw to number 5 for some reason. So the first one, the Prince of Wands upside down. So I feel he's taking it badly, because I feel that you can see that the lion on the front of that shield as well. And I think this is definitely but that's all about him wanting to portray himself as, I think this is Orban. And I think the reason why I'm saying that is that he wanted to portray himself as this strong dictator. And so he's put this a lion on the shield to try and scare people, if you like, you know. But in actual fact, his whole world is turned upside down, and the power that he thought he had has been turned upside down. So yeah, I think that this is definitely Orban, and I think that his perceived power is maybe not as powerful as he thought, because literally, there's been a huge, almost revolt here against him with this Pride March. Big flop, yeah, definitely a big flop. And also you can see the fact that it's a wand is important for the next card, because the 3 of Wands, I think this is to do with the people. I think very much the middle 3 cards in this reading are the people, actually, and the outer cards are Viktor Orban, if you like. So the first card is, now they see there's wands around this person in this card, and this is almost like Viktor Orban was trying to restrict people and try to stop people, but they still kept on dancing. So even though there was this restriction around them, didn't stop them dancing, didn't stop them shining their light of the sun. Do you see the light that person's touching, the sun that person's touching? So this is very much about, although these restrictions were there, these people know that they've got good hearts. They're doing this with a good intention. What they're doing isn't bad, you know. What Viktor Orban doing is bad, actually. And so this is very much a case of they're still going to manage to dance and be themselves, even with these perceived restrictions in place, you know. Now, the reason why they're going to continue to do that is they are very strong people, you know. I mean, Viktor Orban, it's all gone pear-shaped and he's upside down, and it's all like, what the heck? Whereas look at the composure of the people on the march. These are very focused, strong, but kind and gentle people as well. I'm getting a real vibe of like calmness, of like confidence though, and of strength from this card, you know. And this is the people, you know, they're going to be so calm. There's always going to be no violence connected to them, but there's going to be so much strength that you're just not going to shift it, you know. And even when he tries and goes maybe a bit deeper, so this could be the potential fines that are going to come close. The swords, the Princess of Swords. Now it's interesting, the princess as well. So I do think that they're going to possibly try and find these people. Okay, but I don't feel it's going to be that successful. The reason why is that you can see that we have the Princess of Swords and the Princess of Pentacles here, two princesses next to each other. And I think that the Princess of Pentacles is because people know where the money is, in the sense that they know what true wealth is. And true wealth is being you. True wealth is being yourself and being true to you. Okay, that's what the true wealth is. And that's why these people are so strong. Now, then we have the princess. Again, a princess, you know, lots of queens and princesses on this march, you'll have noticed. Okay. And so that's why we have princesses in the card. Okay. But very strong. I don't know if you've ever met a drag queen, but proper drag queens are actually quite intimidating. You know, often they're very tall because they're wearing high heels, and they have the persona, and I think it's fantastic, you know. But they can be quite intimidating, okay? And I think a good drag queen actually is usually intimidating, actually, because they can deal with hecklers, they can deal with like boisterous drunk people at the shows and stuff, and they're just like, it's incredible. I've got amazing respect for those drag queens, and it's like, wow, you know, when you meet a proper drag queen, it's like, wow, okay, feel that energy, feel that power, you know. And that's what this card is about. But also it's important to recognize the sword that recognizes hurt. So there is going to be hurt close to these people, okay, which I think is going to try and potentially and use these cameras potentially, but I don't think it's going to be successful though, because this is the princess card again, which is strong. And I think, even though we're not going on to the second question yet, it feels like I'm also wanting to go into that one a little bit, which is, are there going to be more rallies? I don't know whether there's going to be more direct rallies, but I know there's going to be challenges, definitely, to if he does try and put these things through, you know. I think there's going to be big challenges. And I don't know how successful it's going to be, because the last card here, the moon, is upside down again. And it almost feels like the people are going to have the last laugh here. It feels like. The reason why I'm saying that is the moon, I feel, represents Viktor Orban, you know, the big cheese, if you like, you know. He is a dictator. He is seen as the prime minister, which is a powerful position. It is seen as a big cheese, okay? But look what's above him, and look what's almost like crushing it, and also very powerfully as well, with like its claws. So the people are definitely taking control here. They're definitely putting him in his place. Definitely putting him in his place. They're showing him where he needs to go, almost, you know. Almost sticking two fingers up at him. What do you crab? Not crab. No, lobster. He's almost like sticking two fingers up at him. You know, definitely showing him where to go, giving him a prod. You know, making his life not easy at all. So I think they're gonna. Yeah, there's more power to come, I feel, in that sense, you know. Definitely. And I don't think he's taking this rebellion good at all, because, as I say, his world has been turned upside down. I think he's lost his orientation a bit, almost. I think he's lost a bit of confidence as well behind closed doors. He wouldn't admit that. I think behind closed doors, because I think for long enough he's thought, I've got this regime and no one can do anything to me. But all of a sudden people have, you know. And I think that's a big moment, actually, of like freedom and of democracy. Also, to have the mayor speak out about him as well is significant as well. So it's not just the people here. We're talking about some people in government coming together too. It's big. It is quite big, you know. I think this can also give energy to the Americans as well, because they've got Orban with a fascist regime trying to put on suffering to the people, and people in America will have seen their response and seen how it's affecting these things, you know. So people in America can almost go, look what happened there, you know. So let's get a clarifying card here to see how has he taken this. Lady of Emotions, and I think this is to do with like his world being tipped upside down. Funny enough, this card looks as though the person's upside down. Again, very much like, yeah, their world's been, because it's like they're hanging upside down with their hair down, you know. And I feel that yeah, things have been really turned on its head, I think, and he now doesn't know quite where he is. Almost, he's lost his. He's like, what? His grasp. It feels like his grip is slipping. Okay, and so this is why I think if they do try and go for the fines, and then they further continue to push this through, I think it's going to be really significant. You know, I think it's going to be really big. You know, so really, really interesting. So the next, so we had the Prince of Wands, the world upside down. Then we had the Three of Wands dancing, even though they'll be trying to be restricted. And then the Princess of Pentacles, just really strong, knowing where the true wealth actually lies. And the Princess of Swords, even though hurt is very close, it's not going to weaken them. And in fact, it's actually going to make them even stronger against him, and make this little cheese turn into this big cheese turn into a little cheese, you know. So we're going to go on to the next question, and I'm going to get, will there be more rallies against the government in the future? Let's just have a look. So I'm going to just get a couple of cards out for this, I think. Let's have a look. So, all over the table. Oh, wow. Okay. The Tower and the Hang. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So, like I said, like the Lady of Emotions was like the person upside down, like the Hanged Man. Look at the Hanged Man hair. You see that? It's the same as the Lady of Emotions, the card Lady of Emotions. Is that still at the top? Yeah, look. You see? And I actually held it that way up earlier. You see, it's almost identical as the Hangman's head. Amazing. So, yes, I think there definitely are going to be. He hasn't heard the last of people standing up for their freedoms. Basically, is the answer to this. Okay. In terms of whether it be a mass rally, I'm not sure about that, but I definitely see his kingdom crumbling with this card. This is definitely a card that represents the kingdom crumbling, or you could also call it the regime crumbling. Okay, this regime that was once a big strong tower is going to start to crumble and crumble and crumble. The reason why it's upside down is I think this is representative of Viktor Orban's world being turned upside down. His world is turned upside down and it's crumbling. The crown is falling from his head, you know. And then the Hanged Man. Now, I feel the reason this is all to do with that people are kind of like, we are almost like, as much as we are in a moment where people are really trying to take over the world with lots of fascist regimes all over, we are also in a moment where people now are standing up for democracy, you know, and they're not hanging around with it either. Because he's very much a don't hang around card, you know. His world's been turned upside down, so don't hang around. Stand up for democracy. Now is the time, almost. Like now is the time for that, you know. So I think, I don't know whether there'll be mass rallies, but I do feel that this movement is going to get even more powerful. And also, I do already said in the previous reading how I think that it's almost will empower people around the world when they see things like this happening, okay? Because there's a lot of news reports of legislation being passed about this and that and this and that, but you can't ban freedom at the end of the day. And I think this is a huge example of that. You know, I just want to get a clarifying card out from the Oracle of the Light. Let's see what this card says as well. Will there be more mass rallies in the future? A castle on the rock. So in terms of more mass rallies, I think this is to do with, I think so. This is very much like an individual card because it's quite an isolated card. But ironically, what I feel this is about is people stepping into their power. Okay, because the only way 100,000 people actually step into that power and have that power is if each one of those individual people decide to go on that Pride March. Okay, that's the only way you get 100,000 people or 200,000 people there. Now, I know that sounds kind of obvious, but what I'm actually meaning by that is for all of those people to go on that, they have to step into their power, just like this castle has. It said, look at me, I might be on my own, but I'm strong. And I'm not going to let these freedoms be lost. You know, I'm going to stand up for what's right. And now I don't mind standing up and being seen, you know, putting your head above the parapet. Because don't forget, if you don't speak up for these people, who will be left to speak for you? Because, you know, with the fascist regimes, you never know who they're going to come for next. And there's a big history of fascist regimes where they basically go after almost everyone, really, you know, except that one particular group, you know, everyone becomes an enemy. That's the irony. That's a very strange irony with fascism and dictatorships. Very, very strange, you know. Even in dictatorships, within even that party, there's a huge lack of trust and no stability because everyone's afraid if they say the wrong thing, they're out. It's very, very strange. So this is very much about a card going, no, I'm going to step into my power. I'm going to be me. And so just like the tower is crumbling for Orban, the tower is growing for the people. The tower is going higher for the people. Do you see the difference between those two cards? I think that says it all, actually. You know, this one's crumbling, going, and this one's raising up. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, we have the tower crumbling, and then we have the hangman. Now is the time we have to speak up for these freedoms before they disappear completely, and stepping into their individual power. You know, wow, a really interesting reading. It just goes to show how important, really, stepping into your power and holding on to your freedom is. It must be never taken for granted, our freedoms, everybody. We must always value our freedoms preciously and hold on to them. And if you ever see them eroded, be the first one to speak out about it. If you've ever speaking down to anyone disrespectfully, don't stand for it, you know, because if you don't speak up, you're almost legitimizing it, which is why I will always say, if I don't agree with something, I don't have to fall out with the person, but if I don't agree with something, I will say, I don't think that's, you know, I don't agree with that, you know. It's important to stand up for what is right. And it's important to stand up for others that aren't as strong as you, okay? Because I think that the fascist playbook is very much like stand up for the most powerful. The most powerful people look after themselves. I'm okay, mate. Don't care about you. That's a very selfish way of being in this world. We should try and be the best examples of beings that we can, which is kind and compassionate, and we think of others, and we should be able to think about other people's needs just as much about as our own. Okay, empathy should not be seen as a bad quality. In fact, it isn't a bad quality. Okay, and being able to connect to others that are maybe not as in a good position as you and help them out because you're in a better position than them. We should do that. What's wrong with putting yourself out for others? Okay, a selfish world is not a world to live in, and a civilized world. In a civilized world, we think about others, we think about our neighbor, you know, and stand up for good values and morals, okay, and justice and freedom, okay. So I got my high horse a little bit, but I think it's important those words are spoken, and I hope you enjoy the show and enjoy the program. Listen, everybody, with lots of love and light. I do hope you enjoy the show. I will see you all really, really soon with lots of love and light from the Oath of the Light. Goodbye, everybody.